Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi Muhammad.
Inshallah, tonight, in answer to a particular question in the story of the invitation of the Pharaoh as to how Harun alayhi salam is regarded as more eloquent and as a support to Musa alayhi salam, I just wanted to explain this point.
Bismillah.
And to understand this point properly, one has to go through many preliminary steps. So it may be a bit difficult, but you have to bear with me. We've said before that very broadly speaking, there are two kinds of realms according to the logic of the Quran. There is the Hadha realm, and Hadha, the demonstrative pronoun, means this realm. This meaning it's readily available, accessible, sensible, can be sensed for everyone, whoever you are. But also, the language of the Quran talks of a dhalika realm, that realm. When you say that, it's not within your reach, it's that realm. It's not readily accessible, you have to acquire it. It's not within reach, you have to transcend to it. But the Hadha realm, it's easy. The Dhalika realm, it's difficult. Sometimes in the Quran, it speaks of Hadha al-Kitab, this book, referring to the Arabic physical book. It's readily accessible to all. Even the kafir has access to it. Sometimes in the Quran it says Dhalika al-Kitab, means that book. Although most translations translated this book, that's wrong. That book is not within reach. You have to get there. It's that book. It's difficult to gain access to it. In the Quran, some chapters start with, after Bismillah, they start with what are called the disassociated letters, where the letters are pronounced separately, rather than connecting the letters and reading the word. For example, in the second chapter it says Alif, Lam, Mim, which if you translate it, I suppose you can say A-L-M, but that's not strictly true. But the letters are disassociated. In these chapters which start with disassociated letters, the verse which comes after speaks of Dhalik al-Kitab or Tilk al-Ayat, that book or those verses. You see, not this verse, not this book. It's that book. When it's that book, it's in reference to that realm, which isn't accessible right now. We have to transcend, get there. And that's why they follow the disassociated letters. The disassociated, why are they disassociated? Why can't you connect them? Because you don't deserve it yet. There are secrets to it. You have to transcend to those secrets. And so those letters are disassociated. You have to get to it. To get to it, it's not readily available. That book, those verses. And in relation to the 12th Imam, his first name, why can't we, or why is it outside the etiquette to pronounce his first name connectedly? His first name was the first name as the Holy Messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But for the 12th Imam, we can't call him that name. It's out of etiquette. It's not haram. But we say Mim, Ha, Mim, Dal. We say it in a disassociated fashion. And that's because we have to get to him. And once we have access to him, once we transcend this realm and have access to the Ghaibi Imam, then we can call him by that name. Otherwise, when there's no access, it's out of etiquette to call him by that name. So sometimes it's Hadal Kitab in the Quran, this physical Arabic book. Sometimes it's Dhalik al-Kitab. Sometimes it's Hadal Imam, sometimes it's Dhalik al-Imam. The Dhalika realm is things that you have to attain to. It's not readily available to you. Okay, now Imam Khomeini in Adab al-Salat, he says the truth of the Quran, the essence of the Quran. Now the essence is that immaterial essence of the Quran, the Dhalik al-Kitab, not the physical book, not Hada al-Quran. It's Dhalik al-Kitab. That's the mother of the book. The truth of the Quran is distortion less, tahrif less. It can't be changed. So I have to clarify something here before we continue with this. Tahrif, distortion, is of two types. One type of distortion is used in theology and fiqh, where it's in relation to the fact that the words of the Quran have never changed. They've never been deleted. Nothing has been added. It's the same words. That we all believe in. The words have never been changed. Now in the Quran, the signs weren't there. The vowels, all these diacritical marks, they were never there to start off with. But the words have never changed. And therefore, the word may be the same word, but it can be read in two ways. That's another discussion. But the word itself has not changed. There was an Iranian farmer by the name of Muhammad Kazim Iraqi. He was illiterate. He became Hafiz of the Quran overnight. It's a very well-known story. All the Maraji of the time, including Ayatollah Burujerdi, about 60, 70 years ago, they all met him and tested him. I'll speak more about him as we progress, but just one point. There was someone in Tehran, he's passed away now. He was a member of a particular political group the time of the Shah. And he himself told me, in his very advanced years, he's passed away now, he told me this Muhammad Kazim Iraqi, we once grasped him and took him to our headquarters and told him to recite certain verses. When it came to the verse Salam ala Ilyasin, which is in the Quran today, he recited it as Salam ala al Yasin, which is in reference to the Ahlul Bayt. The word is the same, it's pronounced differently. But these things, it's possible. But the words haven't changed. Hasn't been added, hasn't been taken away. But there's no room for complacency. This is one very important stories which I heard from person, from that, in person from that brother. This kind of distortion is a physical distortion. I'm not speaking about that at all. We don't believe in distortion and tahrif in relation to the Arabic. In Irfan, though, we believe in a certain distortion. And that's the distortion I'm going to be speaking about. So don't get mixed up. This passage in Adab al-Sad by Imam Khomeini was used by Wahhabis to say that Shias believe in that physical distortion. But they didn't understand the Irfan and they got messed up. I don't want you to fall in the same trap. The truth of the Quran is distortionless and unchangeable. From this divine book of revelation, al-Kitab, no one can bear it save for the likes of the absolute Wali Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Others cannot grasp this ultimate truth, that Kitab, mother of the book, that immaterial essence of the Quran. Not the physical, the immaterial essence of the book. No. Others, they can't grasp it. Save, except, were it to manifest from the unseen, that dhalika realm, from the unseen realm of existence to the apparent visible realm, evolving down to the physical realm, clothed with the attire of words and physical letters. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam has access to Kitab. Others no, unless that mother of the book manifests itself into words and physical letters. And once it manifests into an Arabic format, then we also have access to it. Otherwise, we would never have access to the Quran. This is one of the meanings of distortion. Because when that immaterial mother essence of the book, which no one has grasp of, when that manifests into letters, that reality becomes distorted. You're making it more and more physical, less and less immaterial, although the essence of the book remains as it is. But when you give it the clothing of words and letters, you're distorting that immaterial message. This last sentence is important for the story of Musa alayhi salam. When you're giving words and letters to that essence, immaterial reality of the book, you're distorting it. And now we have physical words. This is one of the meanings of distortion, tahrif, which occurs with respect to all the Quran. All the Quran is distorted. All this Arabic physical Quran, it's distorted. From what? From that immaterial essence of it. For it to come down in a worldly form, it had to be distorted. All noble verses have undergone such a distortion, or numerous distortions, before being accessible to the masses. So that immaterial essence of the book had to come down level after level, from that dhalika immaterial essence realm. It had to descend lower and lower realms before it comes to this physical realm. Each realm it descends, it's one distortion, until it comes down to this physical realm, where it has undergone multiple distortions. The number of level of distortions is on a par to the dot with the number of esoteric levels of the Quran, with the number of butun of the Quran, which are infinite. The inner layers of the Quran are infinite, because the inner layers of existence are infinite. This is the physical realm, but the metaphysical realms too. This physical realm is infinite too, but metaphysical realms have no number. They're infinite. They vary, metaphysical realms vary in their degree of immateriality. Some realms are more immaterial than others. The most immaterial of the immaterial, yes, that's the mother of the book, isn't that realm? That descends, keeps on going to less immaterial, keeps on descending the realms until it comes as a physical book. An infinite number of distortions are arising before it gets to this physical book. But this physical book represents the inner meanings of all those realms of the Holy Quran. And in each realm it has its own meaning. In each realm that the mother of the book has descended, that realm has its own specific meaning. In this worldly realm, the worldly physical Quran has a superficial meaning. It's okay, we accept it. But also there are inner meanings to it. In short, tahrif, distortion, is tantamount to descension, coming down, not in the physical sense, but descension from the absolutely unseen to the absolutely apparent, visible in this world, in proportion to the levels of realms of existence. And butun is the return from the absolutely apparent, the physical, visible form, to the absolutely unseen. So tahrif and butun are opposites. One is the mother of the book descending downwards to the physical, and the other is for me and you, from this physical returning to the unseen, to the mother of the book. Each to their own capacity, transcending the realms to get closer and closer to the mother of the book. The more the salik, the more the traveller, the wayfarer, ascends and returns, the more he is freed from distortion. The more you ascend, the freer you've become from the levels and chains of distortion. Because from the unseen to the physical, there were X many distortions until you got the physical book. Now you've ascended one or two levels. That means you're now free from two distortions at least. You're getting closer. The more you ascend, the more you return. You are freer, and you are freed in proportion to the number of levels you return and transcend from the shackles of distortion. Otherwise, you are totally imprisoned by the shackles of tahrif, where it's only the physical book. Summun, bukmun, umyun, fahum, la yarjun. Deaf, dumb and blind, fahum la yarjun. They are not returning. They've just confined it to the physical. Or fahum la ya'qilun. Doesn't mean deliberating in the rational sense. The kuffar have that. They are not transcending to the level of the intellect, the realm of the intellect. It's a metaphysical realm. They're just here. And actually, the level of the intellect, you have to transcend a number. Even if you transcend the barzakhi batin of the Quran, you still haven't reached the level of the intellect. Okay. Just one marginal point. There's a discussion amongst scholars, and even amongst the Urafa, and a difference of opinion as to what qualifies as the Quran. Does the physical book qualify as wahy, revelation? Or the words that the Holy Messenger uttered after being revealed from Archangel Gabriel, the Quran, the physical words with the physical sound energy that came from his mouth, are those words wahy too? Or does wahy, revelation, end upon the heart of the Holy Messenger? So Archangel Gabriel is the last step where Archangel Gabriel appears in a barzakhi form, not physical, in a mithali form, a semi-immaterial form, where there's no matter, there's no physical matter, but there are size, shape, color, like in our dreams, for example, mithali. Archangel Gabriel appears, shows the Quran, gives the words of Allah to the Holy Messenger. Is that the last step? And then when the Holy Messenger utters the words, that's not wahy anymore. Is it like that? All theologians and some Urafa say yes. It stops at the heart of the Holy Messenger. Those physical words uttered are not revelation. They are propagation of the Word of God. It's not revelation per se. And they use the verse, Ya ayyuhar rasul balligh ma unzila ilayk. O Messenger, propagate that which has been revealed upon you. However, Ibn Arabi, Mullah Sadra, and the Urafa, usually, they say no. They say even the physical words uttered by the physical mouth, even that is revelation. And it's a long discussion, but the verse they use from the Holy Quran, which shows that the chain of events of revelation does not end at the heart of the Holy Messenger. Rather, it continues from the mouth of the Holy Messenger to the ears of me and you. The verse they use in chapter 9, verse 6, وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ اسْتَجَارَكَ. And if one of the mushrikeen should seek your protection, فَأَجِرْهُ, granted to him. Then this part of this clause is important. حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ, so that they hear the words of Allah. So that which the mushrik is hearing is the word of God too. Another source of difference that we see in relation to what wahy is in relation to this verse. And this is one of the very unique things that Ibn Arabi has introduced. In chapter, what do I do? I haven't written the verse here. Sorry about that, but I think it's chapter 42, but I'm not sure. وَمَا كَانَ لِبَشَرٍ أَن يُكَلِّمَهُ اللَّهُ. It's not for any human that Allah speaks with them. إِلَّا, except. so humans can speak with Allah. Here, the theologians say these humans are only in relation to prophets. Ibn Arabi says no, it says bashar. Bashar is used in the absolute sense, be they prophets or non-prophets. It says bashar. So humans is not for them to speak, for Allah to speak with them, except, so if humans fall in either of the following three categories, humans can speak with Allah. So it's open to me and you also. Illa wahyan, the revelation, and this revelation from the context of the verse is a direct one-to-one with Allah, not through any intermediary, either through that way or min wara'i hijabin, or through a veil, or أو يرسل رسولا فيوحي بإذن ما يشاء, or Allah sends a messenger and reveals, the messenger reveals with Allah's permission that which He wants. Here it says, or Allah, He sends a Rasul. This Rasul too is not the technical definition of a Rasul, it's a messenger. It may be an angel, which is the common perspective and tafsir here. The Rasul is an angel, or Allah sends an angel when He wants to speak with someone, and He does it with many prophets. But Rasul could also refer to prophets. He sends a prophet who then fayuhiya, who then reveals. And with this second variation, that which the Holy Prophet speaks, those words are also revelation per se. And also revelation, there are two types. One is legislative, one is non-legislative. The legislative form of revelation ends with the last prophet, which is our holy messenger. However, the non-legislative revelation continues until the end, until the day of resurrection, be you male or female. It's open to everyone. But it's not a legislative revelation. Lady Fatima alayhi salam, Lady Maryam, and many others, until the day of resurrection, or have access to this form of speaking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Then, continuing from that, Imam, he writes, the awliya, the people of God, the lovers of Allah, the disciples of Allah, cannot explain their unveilings and visions to the masses. We're getting closer to the story of Musa now. The awliya, they can't explain to the masses when they unveil the inner dimensions of revelation. They can't explain it. It's difficult. Like with the Quran, which has descended so much to the extent that it addresses people who are imprisoned by the shackles of darkness. The Quran otherwise wouldn't have been accessible. It had to descend so much so it comes to a physical book. Otherwise, me and you who are imprisoned by the shackles of worldly darkness, you wouldn't have had any benefit from the Word of God. The hands and tongue of the prophets were tied behind their back. Pay close attention here. They can't reveal that which is ultimate reality, save by manifesting it reflecting it in a simpler way. The Quran has degrees, 7 or 70, and from these inner layers, these butun, the Quran has descended so low that it be able to address and speak to the masses. Consequently, Allah has introduced Himself with the camel. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ, and so on and so forth. When Allah wants to introduce Himself, He's done it through a camel, a worldly reality. Yet the word of Allah, that essence, had to descend so low that He introduces Himself through the camel, through the skies, through the mountains, through the earth. And this is remarkably regretful for us, i.e., to attain to Allah's ma'rifah through these lowly existence, via the skies, the earth, and so on. The tongue of the prophets had knots. Rabbi shrah li sadri. My Lord, open up my chest. Wa yassir li amri. Facilitate for me my affairs. Wahlul uqdatam min lisani. Open up the knot from my tongue. The tongue of the prophets had knots. And then Imam mentions this verse, open up the knot from my tongue. The knots with a K, were in the tongue, not in the hearts. They could not express that which they were spiritually in possession of to others, and hence they would utter through analogies and examples that essence of the book which they would reach. Some prophets could not express it in words. They were so high. It was difficult. There were knots in their tongue. They couldn't explain it to the masses. In any case, when Allah is being introduced by a camel, it is but evident what level we are residing in. It's the animalistic level. And the ma'rifah that we do acquire is very deficient. So the higher the spirituality the Prophet transcends to and acquires, the more difficult it is to express that reality in words. And for some prophets it couldn't be done. With our messenger it was done. Because the levels of prophets vary, some prophets are higher than others. If there's a prophet lower than Nabi Musa, who's reached many levels of spirituality and many of the layers, but not like Nabi Musa, for that prophet it would be easier to explain to the masses that reality that that prophet has acquired than for Prophet Musa to explain that level which he has acquired. And so, when the verse says, Wa akhi, and my brother Harun, Nabi Musa alayhi salam, chapter 28, verse 34, Wa akhi Harun, huwa afsahu minni lisanan. He's more eloquent than me tongue-wise. Because Nabi Harun didn't have as many knots in his tongue. Why? Because he hadn't reached a higher level. than the level that Nabi Musa had. Otherwise, without a doubt, Nabi Musa was higher. Without a doubt, he was more eloquent. With all attributes, he was the strongest from any other person there. Even with the story of Khidr, that has to be explained carefully. It's not the case that Khidr is higher than Musa, no. Without a doubt, Nabi Musa is higher. That story has its own commentary, which I've spoken elsewhere. But here, Nabi Harun didn't have as many knots. Nabi Musa, he said, bring Harun with me. He's a prophet, Ma'soom, therefore he's immune, he's safe, rather than bringing another person who's not a prophet. But he can explain these realities to the people. فَأَرْسِلْهُ مَعِيَ رِدْعًا, and send him with me as a support, يُصَدِّقُنِي, so that he confirms that which I have to say, confirms me. He explains the things that I want to say. إِنِّي أَخَافُ, otherwise I'm scared. Of what? I'm afraid of أَن يُكَذِّبُونَ. I'm afraid that these people are going to deny what I have to say. Because with that access that I have, if I was to explain that, people won't accept. And they will deny the message. Let Harun do it. That's both in confirmation and on par with my message, but he can explain it easier. So this is one of the meanings. Not that Nabi Harun had a stutter from childhood because they stuck a piece of charcoal in his mouth and then he had an impairment, and these are things that other religions, distorted religions, have brought into our religion. This has no basis whatsoever. Nothing. It has no value, has no authenticity. And a lot of traditions are like this. But they found their way. And then Imam says, so, O needy one, endeavor in the name of your Lord and purify your heart and exit from Satan's influence and recite your Lord's book and ascend. You have to ascend. Read it with deliberation and thought, and do not become confined with its shell and external dimension. Don't be confined with the superficial aspect alone. It's important, but don't confine religion to it. Don't imagine that the divine and the revealed lordly Quran is nothing but the shell and outer aspect of it. That Muhammad Kazim Araki, which I was mentioning, who became Hafiz overnight, they took him from place to place and people kept on just testing him. He became depressed. First of all, he was illiterate, but wherever there was Quran, he would see it as light. And he was Hafiz, but he had access to the secrets of the Quran too. He became depressed that people were just testing him. This is someone who has been given the Quran with its secrets to some degree overnight. And then people who are just confined to the physical realm, they just test him verses without asking him about the secrets of the book. And even in contemporary times, maybe, when someone becomes a Hafiz, although not overnight, people get very excited. I remember maybe 20 years ago, we had one or two people come over to London when I was here. But it was only the Zahir which mattered to them. And one of them actually, he was a very young boy. Someone asked, did you see the 12th Imam? He replied twice, but no one went further into what he benefited from the 12th Imam. But anyway, people are only interested in the Zahir, that's it. Then he went to one of the leading Maharaja of the time, I don't want to mention the name, 60, 70 years ago, and he also just asked a few verses. And then to the Maharaja, this illiterate person said, "You've asked me a little question, and it was all about memory. Can I ask you a question?" He said, "Go ahead." The Maharaja said, "Go ahead." He said, "Why are the following 7 letters not found in Surah Al-Fatiha?" You see? And then he went into the secrets behind the 7 letters. And look, he's taken to a different realm. This was revealed upon him. The story of how it happened is a very long story, but he would only consume halal, and he was very careful in his religious dues, especially zakat and other things. And really, the secret is that one has to abide by the Sharia 100%, even if you don't understand the inner dimensions of the Sharia. That's definitely worthwhile. But if it's going to be something academic, it's going to be a veil for you. But you just act according to the Sharia 100%, even if it's a dry life for you. Doing it for God's sake. The doors will open eventually, but you have to practically abide by it. With some people, when they want to practically abide by the Sharia, they cause the lives of those around them misery. No, you have to stay away from that. That's a form of haqqun nas, harming people, disappointing people. That's a barrier to spiritually wayfaring. But you yourself cause all the misery you want to yourself in following the Sharia to the dot, and the doors will inevitably open. That's the best way. Now, sometimes understanding it, people like me speaking about the inner layers, the butun, on the manbar, okay, I have a different agenda. I just want to give an attractive aspect to Islam, which you may not have heard. I think that's your right. But still, when I give you these butun, it shouldn't be just an academic thing. That will have no benefit for you in the hereafter. And therefore, you yourself, through abiding by the Sharia, can acquire these butun. Allah will teach you. You don't have to look elsewhere. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. Those who say, our Rabb is Allah, aqa'id, ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, and are steadfast upon it, action. Angels descend upon them. You don't need a teacher. The potential is great. So we say, don't imagine that the divine and the revealed lordly Quran is nothing but the shell and outer aspect. Why? Because confining oneself to the outer dimension and retreating oneself to the alam al-zahir, the external realm, and not transcending, returning to the essence and batin, the inner realms, is tantamount to death, destruction, and forms the bases to all forms of ignorances. Yes, you're ignorant. أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ Balhum Adal. Although this verse isn't mentioned in Imam's work, I've just added this. They're like animals, such people. They're like animals. Balhum Adal, they're even more erring. Why are they like animals? Or even worse than animals? أولئك هم الغافلون. They are heedless. Heedless of what? Chapter 30 verse 7. يعلمون ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا وهم عن الآخرة هم غافلون. They know the ظاهر of the worldly life, but in relation to آخرة, which is the batin of the worldly life, they are heedless. If you're heedless, you're an animal. You're deaf, dumb and blind. لا يرجعون لا يعقلون. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam was travelling on his camel and Ali Akbar alayhi salam was with him, Imam had a vision. When he came out of that state whilst on the camel, he said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ali Akbar alayhi salam, he said, what's happened, father? He said, I saw in a vision that a pack of wolves, animals, they took us to our death. See, Imam transcended in that vision of his. He saw the realities that were to come. And Ali Akbar knew this was the end. Ali Akbar was the